Hey friends, Ernie here from the Trader of Futures. Awesome to be from the Trader of Futures. Here today to talk to you about Bitcoin fundamentals. Now, a lot of people are asking me, what are you talking about, Ernie? Fundamentals? There are no fundamentals in Bitcoin. It's not a stock. There's no earnings per share. The way I define fundamentals are those things that affect the sentiment of the crowd, the investors, and ultimately the price of that particular asset. Now, with different types of assets, obviously there's going to be different ways to measure that. And with Bitcoin and crypto, that is fundamentally the case. I mean, considering that cryptocurrencies aren't owned by anybody, well, it's not owned by a company or any one organization or anything like that. There is some centralization. There are some aspects to it that can be measured. Absolutely. So what we really need to do, though, is figure out a way to apply some kind of fundamental bias on it. So as an investor, I can determine whether or not I'm bullish or bearish rather than just looking at the charts and relying on technicals. There are a number of things that affect the sentiment around Bitcoin and that ultimately come down to this. If I were to buy a Bitcoin today, can I expect it to be worth more tomorrow? It's the fundamental question. Now, there are a lot of reasons why the general public is shying away from Bitcoin these days. It's because they don't trust it. They hear all this nasty stuff about it. They're afraid. The other problem is that it's primarily controlled or occupied or is part of this, what appears to be a cult. I would say that 80 to 90% of Bitcoin investors, holders, developers, enthusiasts, from a demographic point of view, are primarily male millennials. That's about it. And that's it regardless of where you're talking about in the world. So that's one problem. And so from that aspect, they also have a very unique way, a cultural way of viewing what Bitcoin is. And I guess that's probably another part of the fundamental analysis of Bitcoin, that there is this cultural aspect, there is this vision of what Bitcoin represents in terms of a future society. And that future society is way, way out there in the future. It's beyond George Jetson land. But there are other things that are keeping people away from crypto. And perhaps the most glaring thing is the fact that 99% of all the ICOs that have existed to date are worthless. They are just worthless use cases. They are solutions looking for problems. You can generate or create an ICO on a whim. All you need is a fancy, well-looking website with these kind of dangly little graphics. Put a white paper on there that is complete nonsense. Actually, what you can do is you can just copy and paste it from another white paper. And then at the very end, maybe on the 60th, 70th page, put a paragraph down there that has your unique proposition. Then, of course, you have to have a roadmap. And you must show the investors and the team, of course, it is better if you don't actually show faces, or if you do have graphics, that they're pointing to some fictitious LinkedIn account. There you have the recipe for the perfect ICO, and you can go out there and with the right marketing, raise yourself, well, not these days, but you could have raised yourself $5 million, $10 million, $100 million, $1 billion, $4 billion. Those are all true. Completely worthless, in my view. The other thing is that crypto is full of scammers. If those weren't scammers in of themselves. I mean, most of these ICOs and coins are just people looking for money grabs. But we can go and talk about actual scammers, pyramid schemes, Ponzi schemes, lending coins, and this list goes on and on. In fact, it is such a big list. I mean, let me just start in on it. It's, BCC Cash, which is different from Bitcoin Cash, by the way. BCH Connect, Billion Bit Club, Binary Coin, BitSequence, BitAI, BitChamps, BitClub, Club Coin, SFI Coin, Stenum Coin, Stepthium Coin, Swiss Coin, Tenacoin, Texcoin, Thorn Coin, Ucoin, Unix Coin, USI Tech, WCI, Weston Coin, XRP Connect. Now, those are just the scams that are deemed Ponzi's and pyramid schemes. Then we get into the defunct. Now, those either they may still exist. Maybe some of them are on the outs, but for the most part, they're still there. Then there are those that had the exit scammers that made their way out. They managed to abscond with millions and millions of dollars, like Ambus, Bitcoin Lee, BitConnect, BitHall, BitLake, BitPetite, which was actually supposed to be a Tumblr. That was supposed to be the legitimate part of the operation. And now all of these coins, all of these services, now BitPetite in particular didn't have a coin associated with it, but it was a service, and they guaranteed anywhere from 0.5% to 4% interest a day. Well, we have to go on. We have BitSupreme, BTC Box CC, Chain Group, which seemed at first like one of the more legitimate ones. CoinReum, Control Finance, Crypto, Devor, EthoTrade, Laser Online, LoopX, Mavro, MeCoin, Metzer. They don't even go into half the coins that I know of and half the scams that I've heard of. I mean, this is just a very, very partial list. Now, you would think that with such a huge contingent of Ponzi's and lending coin scams and pyramid schemes and outright frauds and money grabs, that it would leave a bad taste in one's mouth. Of course it has. The SEC is going nuts. The FBI currently has 130 cases on their docket that they're actively pursuing, and that's going to grow. The beginning of this year, I dubbed 2018 the year of remittance. In other words, most of these coins were violating SEC rules. They are securities, yet they were going around them and acting as if they had no laws in front of them. A lot of people are going to have to watch their backs. The tax man is going to be after people that made a ton of money and then perhaps lost a lot of it in the crypto crash, and now owe a tremendous amount of taxes and nothing to pay it with. Okay, so that's all the bad. I mean, well, it goes on. There's also the Chinese regulators that to this day look at any kind of crypto or Bitcoin investment as being basically illegal. We have Tether and other stable coins. Tether in of itself is supposed to represent the US dollar, refused to be audited, as most people suspect that there is way more Tether than there are US dollars to back that up, and they've actually used that to manipulate the price of Bitcoin. All of these things, and of course we have the regulatory pressure from the United States, the uncertainty, not just the United States, but also the entire G20, as well as the Asian countries. They have their own issues as well. All of this is keeping people away from cryptos. And to this day, as long as cryptos have been on the market, they have yet to come up with, other than Bitcoin, any kind of credible protocol or network or distributed or decentralized application. Simply doesn't exist. Now, does this mean that crypto and Bitcoin don't have a future? No. I believe that they do, but it has been overhyped. Now, I don't know where all this began, but somewhere along the line, some people got the notion that blockchain and distributed ledger technology was some sort of panacea that was going to change all of our lives. It was going to be the ultimate in disruptive technologies. Even I fell into that until I started actually examining it and realizing what it was. And then after you get bombarded with all of these useless coins that had absolutely no business being in business, it became very obvious that this industry was largely driven by FOMO, fear of missing out. Unfortunately, that fear was unfounded in that you're trying to miss out on what was essentially a get-rich-quick scheme. And it continues to this day. There's still hundreds, maybe 1,500, maybe 2,000 coins that are on exchanges that are regularly being dropped. You know, I guess I have to say, to the good graces of some of those exchanges, they're coming to their senses and dropping a lot of these coins, realizing that it's probably better to not associate with them. So, all of this is what I use for my fundamental analysis, and one of the reasons why I have taken a decidedly bearish view on Bitcoin. And it's such an easy call. Now, do I expect that it will change sometime in the future? Yes, I do. I don't think it's going to be in any near future that I can be certain of. In fact, it may be 2 years that we go into some kind of bear market, and I expect that. The good thing is that things like Bitcoin, which have futures associated with them and are relatively widely held and fairly liquid, are going to make a really great trading vehicle for the next couple of years. I think that we'll find it plopping into a range somewhere between $1,000 and $5,000. Currently, I think the price of Bitcoin as we speak is about $5,800 and dropping fast. I expect it to get into the fours, and it will probably remain somewhere, like I said, in that $1,000 to $5,000 channel for a long time, until something emerges, until something is solidified and companies realize how to extract some kind of return on their investment. They start understanding what type of resource changes and cultural changes they'll need to make, and whether or not, or what types of use cases are actually viable for a decentralized architecture and business model. All of that is still yet to have been determined, even though we have all of these fantastically attractive use cases out there. And, you know, I have to admit that there's a lot of very talented people out there doing some yeoman's work, but we still have that gender gap too. Man, that is really bothersome. Very, very, very few women in crypto. And in fact, a lot of these millennial men, probably part of that menu, you know, go your own way, MGTOW type of attitude, are not very welcoming of women, and that is very disturbing. Well, anyways, that is my fundamental model of Bitcoin and the crypto world, the cryptoverse. And that's how I expect it to play out for some time to come. And until there is some fundamental change. Now, I am looking at the G20 meeting coming up in July, mid-July, in a few weeks. I don't expect very much. They have nothing on their docket that will address crypto. So I expect that to be a disappointment also to the cryptoverse. And then after that, I'm going to have to basically retract my original prediction of $30,000 for Bitcoin by the end of the year. I don't think it's possible now. Well, I know it's not possible. And I'm afraid that John McAfee is going to have to somehow settle up with his bet that said he would eat his member on public TV. I don't think that's going to happen. Alrighty. That's all I've got to say. And we'll see you next video.